Nothing to stress about. All right, come make sure they can see you, sweetie. There you go. Sit back, sit up. Okay. Just a teeny bit. There you go. Great.
Hey folks, how are you? It's just me today, and you probably saw a whole bunch of me just fumbling around with the system today. I'm on my own and missing my partner Uncle P this week, but nevertheless, we will be good, and we are excited to have another episode. This is, I think, episode number 10, which is really terrific, and I appreciate the chance to be here with you again. We are we're gonna do something a little bit different this week. I want to take a moment and talk a little bit about some of the news that happens. I was participating in the Chester Business Association meeting this morning and heard some great news that the Widener University right near Chester there and the SAP Corporation, which has an innovation lab, have teamed up and are offering workshops to accelerate business startups in our area. And I wanted to let everybody know about that. I'm learning more about it. I learned about it through the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, at Widener. They are releasing that information now. And as more information comes out, be sure to watch our Facebook page to see what's going on with that. But I also wanted to note it because there were some really good, interesting news this week. And I want to take a moment each week to talk a little bit about some of the entrepreneurial activities that I think are of interest. They're certainly of interest to me because, the first one was that there's a new 30-year-old entrepreneur who has opened the first Black-owned 7-Eleven in Las Vegas without any investors. That's the title of this. But the reason I point that out is because some of you may know that I'm rather frustrated that Wawa does not have any stores in the city limits of Chester. And I think that's wrong. And I think we need to be fighting to get more convenience stores within the Chester boundaries. And it's a community that deserves the same services as every other community. And I want to do what we can to promote that going forward further. And so that was one good piece of news that I like to hear. And so it's definitely possible, and we just need to continue to work to do that. Another one, and this is something that occurs quite often, and I see, is that there is a Black whiskey entrepreneur who is bankrolling other folks who want to, through a venture capital fund, who want to build their own minority-owned spirits company. And in Chester is a greater place as any that I know of to be brewing beers and making wines and all kinds of other things. And so there's a new venture capital fund out that is looking to help out with that. So it's something to think about if you're an entrepreneur looking into that kind of a business. If you are, check out the news and see what's going on with that. But without any further ado, I want to bring our guests on. Let's go ahead and bring you all in here. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm doing this on my own, so it may be a little bit clunky, but welcome to Tanerra and Che Willis.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's great to have you. We're pleased to have a duo this time, and that's always fun. So, hello, Mr. Che. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. That's great. So, real quick introduction, Tanerra. You're a nurse. I understand. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, a
So,
registered nurse at the AI DuPont Hospital for Children.
oh, wonderful. That's great. That's great. So tell us a little bit about, how a nurse came to write a book and so a little bit about the story. The big thing here obviously is that you're an author and I want to make sure that but I don't want to give away too much of the story. So tell us how you came to be an author and then we'll get into the book.
Absolutely. So I am a registered nurse by trade, but writing is something that I've always wanted to do. It's always been a dream of mine. And like many adults, we forget sometimes our dreams that we have as young adults or along that journey. And my son actually was just telling a very creative story that inspired me to publish his children's book. And then in doing that for him, I realized, oh, hey, just like any other mother, we're always making sure we do things for our children and our spouses, but sometimes we forget our own dreams and goals. So in me trying to encourage him, I remembered an old goal of my own and a memoir that I started over 10 years ago and decided to use the time we had during the pandemic to get that project completed.
Wow, that's a great strategy. Yeah, it's good. So tell us a little bit about the book specifically.
Absolutely. So I'm here today to share Memoirs of an Almost Barren Woman, Our Journey to Motherhood. This book is a testimony of my personal infertility journey and my challenges bearing a child on my own. Some of the shame and guilt and stigma behind it when I first learned of these challenges kept me in shame and embarrassment and in fear, and even sometimes self-pity and guilt and things of that nature. And then after a few years, maybe 3 more years afterwards, having successful IVF treatment, I decided and I learned that so many women have this challenge. I learned now as 1 in 8 families deal with infertility, 1 in 4 families deal with miscarriage, and 50% of infertility challenges are half women, half male. So it's not an uncommon journey, but it's a journey that many people do not talk about. It's something that we suffer in isolation and shame about in silence. So I wanted to help because I learned so many different women along my journey. After those 3 years, I shared so much. And every single time I shared, there was someone in the room who shared me too. And I felt like I was in a different place than the majority of those women. A lot of those women were in sadness and grief and despair. And I believe that that's not how we should live our lives. And that's not what God wants for us. So I wanted to write the book to share my testimony, to let people know that I understand and I've experienced that as well. But I'm still living a joyful life. I do still have infertility issues, but I'm still happy. I'm still achieving goals. I'm still enjoying what's in front of me. And I wanted to encourage other women to do that as well. So lastly, I also engaged 5 other families who shared their story because infertility is common, but each person's story is very specific and very unique. So I wanted to engage other women to have more stories and more scenarios shared. And overall, it offers a message of hope to just encourage women going through this experience and let them know that they are not alone and they can still have a happy life on their way to motherhood.
Well, I think that I think that's terrific, and I think that the approach that you took to involve others in the conversation to talk about their own experiences is bound to be engaging because you're going to cut across so many different scenarios where folks have experienced the situation in their own way, and you can give them somebody to relate to, someone to understand. This I'm not the only one going through any of this.
Yeah.
Much like the sort of the grief thing that some people go through. Everybody does it differently. It's always nice to hear somebody else who has gone through a situation that may be similar to yours, and I really applaud you for wanting to document it because these are always difficult topics, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of times, like you said, people feel like they're the only ones going through it or no one understands. And it is hard to understand if it's not your personal experience. And that's why I think having a compilation of different women, and there's a single woman in the book, there's married women, there's biracial families in the group. And I wanted to offer that diversity as well. There's younger people, there's people who've adopted, people who had stillbirths and miscarriages. So I tried to put as many scenarios as possible in the book, so somehow you can connect with either one or more stories within the book.
And what do you feel like is the common thread through all of it? Is there a common theme that all of the different authors and folks who've experienced it in different ways have to say to someone who's going through this themselves?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think one of the most common things is that emotional sadness and grief and despair and feeling hopeless and confused, and the why me experience is what we all felt. But then it seems like we all had some type of aha moment to be okay with exploring different paths to motherhood. We all believe of the natural way, and we think it should be all of our innate experience to be able to parent. But I think that was the other thing when we had that moment of I don't know if it's relaxing or just exploring, being open to different options to parenthood. I think that made the difference in all of our lives to kind of say, okay, I wanted it the traditional way, the natural way, but being open to other avenues, because there's tons of different avenues, and we share some different options in the book for people to explore and educate themselves on. I think that was a big turnaround
Right.
for each of us.
Good. That's wonderful. And so you also self-published, and I because this is a show about entrepreneurism, I'm very interested in the process that you went through to identify the way in which you were going to publish this out. Obviously, you put together the material, did a lot of thought it takes to do all that, but then the real side of it is, okay, how am I going to actually get this thing published? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that process.
Yes. And self-publishing is also very common, and it's done a lot. You do have to decide if you self-publish, you're going to be doing all the work because you are the author, the final editor, the marketer, the distributor, you're everything. So just be committed and do some education. There's tons of companies that assist you with self-publishing, and there's different layers to it. If you want to do everything from the illustrations to the covers to the edit to the binding, if you want to do all of that on your own, you can definitely do that, or you can find contractors or other professionals who could do pieces of it. So I think just to educate yourself, do a lot of reading. In this day and age, the internet is our friend, and you can find education and resources on almost any topic that you want. And I would say research a lot. Don't go with the first thing that you see, but it's definitely a lot of different self-publishing companies and resources out there. Just find one that fits your, I would say, budget and also your level of expertise or novice level.
Right. So did you do the graphics for it? Did you or hire someone, go through the different elements of it? I mean, what part did you have other than obviously the writing and the editing? What elements did you do yourself other than that?
Yeah, so for our book, I definitely contracted out a lot for the memoir, I should say. I found Fiverr for a lot of my resources, and they have freelancers for everything you could ever think of, from the cover imaging, editing, proof editing, line editing, book formatting, book designing. Those are all things you want to write those words down and do your research, and then kind of one of the things I did in the beginning, I think anybody could do, is decide the size. So I went through different books that I liked and said, okay, this is the size I'm comfortable with.
Right.
Decide the font that you want, because you have to know every single detail. And then just ask a lot of questions. Tap on somebody who you know who's done it before, see if they're willing to be a mentor for you. I did that with our first children's picture book. I knew someone who was published, and I reached out and said, hey, could you mentor me? And she agreed to mentor me. And then she also wound up being my editor. And we, Little Che's father knew someone who was an illustrator. He was the one who illustrated our first book. So just kind of just doing some investigation, being curious, being vulnerable, being okay to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't have knowledge in this. Can you help me? Definitely tap in people who've had those experiences, and they'll tell you what to look for. So that was one of my things with deciding to self-publish. Someone who has published books told me their experience with a traditional publisher versus self-publishing, and gave me pros and cons to weigh and things to look into before I got started.
Well, that's so important. One of the things that we talk a lot about, the whole Chester Masterminds program is structured around building a network of folks who have other expertise. We can't all be experts in everything. And I think what you just described is exactly why, I called this thing Chester Masterminds, because I know how important it is to have that network of supporters, people who can mentor you through different stages of your project, your business, or something like that, and and bring special skills when you need them, because you may not need everything all the time. There's no reason to hire staff to do everything. So that's a great message for every entrepreneur. I'm really glad to hear that you said that you build out your network as you learn more and more about what it takes to, in this case, publish a book or get it onto Amazon or something like that. How difficult was that?
I would say Amazon is one of the easiest ones to self-publish. Our first children's book, what's our children's book title, Shannon? You're quiet over there.
The Amazing Warhead. The Amazing Warhead's first adventure, the jewelry store heist.
So cool. This one we did do book publishing, and they were kind of easier too, but I feel like they weren't as friendly, and I thought they were a little bit more pricey. So that was our first publishing company that we utilized, but doing through Amazon was really easy. If you can get someone to format and design the book for you, they have so many templates and hyperlinks within the Amazon self-publishing. It's called KDP self-publishing. That makes it really easy, and you can reach out to, sometimes you can't get a person on the phone, especially during the pandemic. It's been hard to get people on the phone and for customer service. But each time I've reached out, they've been able to explain things to me that may seem simple to them, but it's very foreign to me. And that's been very helpful. So I do believe Amazon was one of the easiest ways to self-publish. And there were so many tools and resources, and they even have like weekly education. So don't be afraid to spend your time. We spend a lot of time on social media and on TV. Don't be afraid to spend your time learning. So a lot of times I would log into those things and write notes like feverishly as they were sharing different tips and things. And they helped a lot, because then I would automatically go through my notes as I was going through the process. And it really helped make things a lot easier.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, so I know you want to talk about your other book, and I do too. So let's go ahead and do that, because this is a family enterprise, right? Yeah. As it clearly indicates. So tell us about your first book, right?
Sure about that one.
Again, put it up on the screen. Let's make sure we get it. There you go.
Good job.
Okay.
And read it off for us again.
So we had this book idea. Well, I had the book idea while I came back from swim class. My mom was washing my hair. She said, if you were to be any superhero, what would I be? And suddenly this just popped in my head. And I said, the Amazing Warhead. She's like, okay, what can they do? And I said, he can turn into any sea creature, stay in water for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then we wrote it down in a notebook, which we lost for 1 year and 8 months or whatever, for a long time. Let's just say that. And then we published it in 2 years later. Then we just started putting it in Barnes and Nobles and a couple other places, and we started going to pop-up shops.
Good job.
Yeah, we started going to a lot.
A lot. So that brings up an excellent point, and thank you, Che, for telling us all about it. How did you guys decide where to? You said you published in what, Barnes and Noble? You said.
Yes.
Right.
So book publishing, there's different, layers of a package that you can buy. So the package that we buy, they are open. They publish your book in 60 plus, they make it available for 60 plus different markets across the country and even more. So what happens is they kind of let them know that the book is available. A lot of those places will shortlist it on their website. And if people order, they'll order more. And then as far as Barnes and Noble, we went into 3 local Barnes and Nobles, and we just said, hey, we're local authors. Are you willing to shortlist our book? And they told us yes. So they'll purchase anywhere from 1 to 2 copies. And then if people buy it, they'll order more. So unfortunately, in our local one, no one had went in, but it's hard if people don't know about it. And a lot of people purchase either through Amazon or our own personal website to get our personal book. So, but if you go in and you ask for it, they'll order it and they'll get it within a couple of days. So it is available to all stores. It's been in Target, it's been in Walmart and Books A Million. So that was a part of the book publishing package that we purchased.
So that must have been really exciting to go into a store and see your book on right, Che? Was that pretty cool?
At first, she said we're gonna go to a store in in Barnes and Noble to see a book. I was confused at the moment. So I was excited, but not as excited. But then when she said our book, I was so excited.
She surprised you.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yes.
Very kind of. Well, that's pretty neat. I mean, so when you had to go, did you actually do book signings at all?
So the pandemic kind of stopped the book signing thing. We had a few things planned, and because literally we published February 2020, so we know the pandemic in the United States March 2020. So we weren't able to do any of the book signings that were scheduled, and a couple book readings. And I would say towards the end of 2020, in this first quarter, we've definitely been revving up and doing a lot of pop-up shops. So we are able to sign books when they're purchased in. We haven't scheduled any official book signings yet, but things are coming. We've had some virtual book readings with some elementary schools. That's been really cool.
Right. Thinking back to how both of you, think about, entrepreneurism a little bit, was there any thought to the audience that you were trying to reach, either for your book, Tanerra, or the children's book? I mean, was there thought to, what is it that folks are looking for?
Yeah, I think for Che's book, it was kind of simple because it happened very organically. Like Che was sharing, we literally were just having mommy and son time, and we were just talking creatively, just asking him a lot of questions. And his story got so descriptive and so detailed. I'm like, oh my God, we got to write this down. And then it was, oh no, we got to write a book. And like Che said, we procrastinated. We lost the book and couldn't find it for months and months and months. And then someone gave him a book. He's been a really good reader all his entire life, and it was from a 9-year-old little black boy. And I said, you know what, if he can do it, we can do it. So that's what really helped me, like, okay, we got to stop procrastinating and getting this done. But so his audience was definitely tailored to his age group because he wrote it at age 7. So our book is definitely good for children ages 6 to 10. It's a picture book. So once you're in 5th grade, you're kind of reading chapter books and those of that sort. So definitely the kindergarten through 4th grade, I would say, would be the target for his picture book. We have a coloring book, and coloring books and also books don't expire, so you can get them at any age. The coloring book, you can do it from 1-year-old up until age 10. Che and I have coloring competitions as a good way to have screen time breaks and to have family time. And then Che is bilingual, so we've also published in Spanish. So that opens another avenue of another group that we can connect with, because we know how important diversity and inclusion is in books. So we wanted to make sure that, Hispanic families can read to their children together. A lot of times the parents will be English speaking, but the grandparents will be Spanish speaking. So that provides another opportunity for them to bond in their own language and also to educate, because, they say cognitively, when you speak more than 2 languages, you're a lot smarter. So that's something else. And lastly, our coloring book has children of all races. And we also have someone with autism. We try to increase the diversity there. But we have biracial children in there. We have Hispanic people in there. We have Black people in there. Of course, Caucasian. So just different. And the memoir is not, I would say it's not specific. I would say 25 to 45 if you wanted to know an age, but it could be for the person who have IBS challenge, but also as providers. There's a lot of people, because a lot of times providers are so stoic and regimented, for them to hear the personal perspective and the impact of it, is helpful for providers. And a lot of our advanced reviewers were not people who've had IVF, and they all had the same, like, wow. One of the people said, you put words to something I never even knew of, or that wasn't my experience. I didn't realize that it was that impactful. And lastly, Jim, one stat I just read, they said that people dealing with IVF or infertility challenges, it is compared to those with a cancer diagnosis. So that's how heavy the emotional piece of it is.
Well, yeah, and as I said before, I'm sure that and all the perspectives that you bring allow folks to feel really connected in with the story, because you're touching different audiences with each different story or section of the book where someone is presenting their own story and how it affected them and their lives and the unique character. So you're opening up the space of the audience by including all the different voices and perspectives that you have in there. That's really wonderful, and I think that's an excellent model. I think, and which is really coming to the next question about how did you decide to do it as an edited, group of articles essentially, or of reports. How did that come about?
I think just the impact of all the women that I've encountered, it had an effect on me. And I knew my story was just one kind of caveat to this experience, and wanting to share more experiences and just being able to connect with more people on a different level. A lot of times, sometimes if people don't know you personally, they're not interested in your story. So just kind of trying to have more stories available, and then more people, like sometimes people, unfortunately, they just want to hear from people who look like them or whose families look like them. So I think by adding more family scenarios, more diversity and race, more, even having a single woman, because there's a lot of single women going through reproductive health issues, and then they're forgotten because they think IVF issue is just for married people. Even when they go to doctors, they don't have certain resources for them. A lot of medical benefits only provide medical benefits for IVF if you're married. So then they're impacted on a whole nother level and almost discounted. So having this, Tanisha is her name, having her story connects with a lot of different women.
Right. So how much research did you have to do in addition to your own personal knowledge? Did you have a medical researcher or any kind of conversations? I mean, you're a nurse, obviously. You have quite a bit of background in a lot of what's going on. But was there other research that you had to do in order to fill out the book?
That's a good question, Jim. So yes, I definitely did research. I didn't have a medical researcher, but because of my medical background, I know how important it is to have evidence-based information and have things that can be confirmed. So yeah, I did a lot of research. I have access to a lot of research tools through both my job and I'm in Wilmington University for a master's program. So I used a lot of their library to get evidence-based research and share a lot of facts. So in addition to our stories, there's also resources to different support groups. There's resources to different companies and websites and organizations. There's resources to different social media things. So the things that I definitely did fact finding and fact checking and looked into myself to support what I share and to give people a launching pad to do their own research and find their own resources. So there's a good start here.
Right. Terrific. Shifting back over to Che's book a little bit, because I want to keep him involved in the conversation. I love that he's on here with us. Selecting the pictures that you chose to put into the book to tell the story. How did you decide what images to present?
So I didn't really choose the pictures that were inside the book. My mom did, and I can't even say.
You can say it. Slow down. The illustrator.
The illustrator came to our house and explained it to her. I was there, but I was younger, so I didn't really understand what was happening.
But they probably gave you some ideas to choose from, right? A few.
This was the book that we lost for like 2 years.
So that was our original book where we wrote our manuscript. And I pulled it out because I wanted to show Che. So Che was in all of our illustration meetings, and I tapped him in and asked him a lot of different questions. So he did actually draw his first idea of what the character would look like, and different things like that. So we drew from that. Blue's his favorite color, so we made sure we had the costume in blue. He was the superhero character. He talked about the different blue streaks. So what I would do is, the illustrator went off the pages and I told him what was important to have. So I made sure I said, we want every child to be able to find themselves in the book. So in the background in the beach, make sure you have a child of every color. Make sure there's even people of different faiths. I made sure there's either an Islamic family, there's Asian families. So I wanted everyone to be able to see themselves when they look in the book. And then we just kind of checked in with the illustrator from time to time and gave our different feedback on the different pages, and made sure we could connect. And then what about we made sure we put our business logo in there. And the other thing cool is our family. We added our family to the storefronts on the waterfront and things like that. So we wanted it to be very personal. You want to share anything else about it?
Yes. We found this book that we passed by like we've gone to that place for like we lost it for like 2 years, and we passed through by maybe like 1,265. I'm just throwing in a random number. We found this book in the drawer under our coffee machine.
The back. So here's more illustrations.
Yes.
I just drew a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's really I'm impressed because I mean more than the the most realized. I think there's an incremental process to this. You start with some concepts and you begin to refine them and add some color here or add an image or something like that there, and then you're always balancing between what the text is saying, what the words are saying, and what the image is trying to. And you want something that's gonna work so that you can keep the right number, because ultimately it's a choice of the number of graphics that you have, right?
Yes, yes. So, and that's something too, Jim, you asked about sharing our process. You kind of have to put all of that in mind when you think about publishing, because all of that matter, page count, illustration count, and all those things, and it all adds up. And I just wanted to show Che, because he said he didn't have a part in it, but you see the jail, everything that you see here is reproduced in the book. The cop car, on the Waterfield tornadoes, one of his ideas, and that was just how cool and descriptive his story was, which made me say this needs to be a book, because his mind just got so specific and so detailed that I'm like, okay, we got a lot to work with here.
Oh, and I have one more thing I want to share. It says jail, come, don't leave, and then it says art by Che.
Cool. So he's super creative. You want to tell him what some of your goals are when you become an adult?
Yeah, I'd love to know that.
Be a soccer player, be a swimmer, and maybe make a TV show.
Ooh, nice. So are you already learning how to do TV shows and learning how to use some like cameras and things yet? Because you can do it with your phone these days.
What did mommy tell you to do about that idea about making a TV show?
Write it down. I wrote some stuff, but not a lot. I have a lot of stuff.
That's okay. That's okay. Get started little by little. It sounds like, if you can write a book, as you did, you definitely wrote a book. You can definitely write a TV show too. There's no.
And that would be my message to parents, to kind of speak to what's already inside of them and let them know that it's a gift and something to acknowledge and encourage. They don't have to wait till they're adults and out of college to accomplish different dreams. And for him, when he came to me and told me he wanted to direct a TV show, like, I think I teared up. I was so excited. And I'm like, get a journal, and every time you have an idea, just write it down. And like he said, he's working on remembering to write it down. But at least once a week, he comes to me and tells me what one of the characters are going to do. I'm like, this is so specific. You need to write it down. He's very creative and very imaginative.
Well, that means, and I know. So my wife is an educator. She would definitely be, screaming for joy that you're engaging him directly in the process. It's not just learning about things, but doing it is so important. And it's wonderful that Che, that you're doing the thing that you want to become. And starting at this age, you just keep going. Everybody will be cheering you on, because there's no reason to think that you wouldn't just be an amazing TV producer. You've got so much in front of you. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. So, I mean, I want to touch on a couple things more. I'm interested. So everyone goes through in the entrepreneur's process some challenges, and I just wanted to hear a little bit about what kind of challenges you might have run across in publishing either of the books, so that others can learn from that and can benefit from your insights.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, everyone is going to experience some degree of challenges. Mine, I guess, is kind of newbie challenges, things that you don't know and aren't aware of, and sometimes they can be costly, and just not knowing all the different steps to take. So I think that was one of my challenges. Just recently with the memoir, when I published it, I paid a professional book designer to design the book, and then uploaded it as an ebook and also a paperback, not realizing that you have to design the ebook differently. So when it was published, it was scrambled and it looked awful, and I was mortified, like, oh my God, they're going to buy this and give me bad ratings. And that book designer was like, oh yeah, that's different. You have to pay for something different. So I think the not knowing and not realizing you can't use one book design format for every avenue of publishing. So that was one of my hiccups, and one thing I was like scrambling to fix and get done as quickly as possible, because you want to put a
what's
good
different? What was the big thing that was different between a PDF or like book, ebook
I'm
versus
definitely
one
don't
that's
have all the correct terms. That's not my expertise. But with the ebook, I know for sure it's formatted differently, so that way the end user can adjust the size of the font and the pages as they like. They make it a clickable content way over my head. But definitely not just uploading a PDF or a Word document at all. It needs to be done in a different format. I don't even really know the name of the format, but just that was a good piece if you're interested in doing it, because you do want to have your book available in many different versions. People are doing audiobooks, ebooks, paperback, hardback, and different things like that, because then that makes you more marketable and also allows your book to be, available on many different platforms. So that would be one of my hiccups. And then just kind of like making sure you double and triple check yourself. All of this started from Chase Picture Book. It was the inspiration. And then it became from the Amazing Wet to the Amazing Corner. Because initially I'm like, okay, I want to inspire other kids to do this and to read and to write and accomplish their goals. Then it was like, okay, I want to do families. And then, like I said, I remembered myself along that journey. And then in June, I'm like, you know what? I'm selling these books. I might as well create my own website and my own LLC. So just that was the stepwise process in that, and then got to the memoir. So it's kind of learning along the way, and sometimes it can be cost effective to learn some of those things retroactively. So definitely educating yourself and connecting with people and joining different groups. I'm on a lot of author networks and groups to learn things. Every time I hear something, I'm like, oh, I need to know that, or I need to learn it, or I need to look into that later. So just being open to being honest with yourself to know that you're new to it and you have much to learn.
Did you take any did you have any training in writing per se? Did you go, because my father-in-law happens to teach or has taught a course in writing skill at Delaware County Community College, and so I know that there are local opportunities. Did you do any of that in order to gain some special expertise around writing?
I did, and I did, and I kind of like have always been pretty good with writing, even with different college courses and things like that. That's always been one of my strengths. More so the technical pieces are more so harder for me. So then I just engage other professionals in different. I would say I had maybe at least 10 people edit my book before I got it out there, just because no one catches everything. Even the people you pay don't catch everything. I was actually in shock at what the professional editor that I paid didn't catch certain things that seemed pretty obvious. So no, I don't have any professional background. I did do different writing groups with other writers. And that if you need some way to get motivated, if you've had some stories you've been wanting to tell, I would encourage that. I would meet people in the mall and we would do writing sessions together, or we would do Zooms and do writing sessions together. And then I had one young lady who I met with who really pushed me and said, why are you sharing that? And why do you want to say it that way? And that creative process helped me to kind of fine tune things along the way.
Correct. I mean, yeah, and you continue to point to how valuable that network of writers, of the network of folks who are going to be editors, people who really want to have a stake in your success and care about your success, and motivating. I mean, I think that's really so powerful, because it's the one message that we have all the time, how important it is to do that. I'm thrilled to see to hear that you took advantage of those opportunities whenever you could. One other, I've got a list of things that I want to make sure that I touch. The obvious one, Amazing Family Enterprises. So tell me, is that the encompassment of all of your books, or are there other things that you are incorporating under that LLC?
So yes, Jim, yes to both. So it does encompass all of our books as well as our business. So my business aims to inspire, educate, and motivate people through our books. We also have apparel. We also have merchandise. And once this pandemic is over, we plan to do events. We want to do family events. We want to do business expos, and we want to do, of course, readings and things of that sort. But the overarching goal is we want to encourage everybody to be amazing. And to me, being amazing is being authentically you, but also pushing yourself to achieve all of your different goals and not allowing fear and circumstances to kind of circumvent all of that.
Right. Right. So you mentioned a few things about do you also now, because you've got experience both in children's books and adult, at least nonfiction, are you consulting, with others and providing other folks the expertise that you've gained?
I would think so. I would say yes. I want to say I pay it forward. So like I said, I reached out to other people and now I have people reaching out for me and I just always make the time. And I plan to always do that no matter where this journey takes me. I have had several friends who say, hey, you inspired me. Can you sit down with me and share stories? And I do. We sit down and I talk to them. I share all of my resources. I share all of my experiences and I'm very transparent. I'm like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know. This is what I don't know. This is what I learned along the way. And this is some things you want to consider. But yes, I do continue to share with other people and other women, and I'm excited. And that's one of the things that make me feel like I've done something well, because some of those women, since I started, have since published books themselves. So that's exciting.
And is there sort of an online network that you would recommend others to be involved in? Or if someone is thinking about becoming an author or not really sure, how to tailor their story or how to, what are some good online groups to be involved with, or websites that folks can go to understand, what they need to know? What are your best?
Yeah, I don't know that I want to highlight any one particular one, but I am on Facebook and Instagram, and I follow tons of authors and tons of author groups. There's a Black women's authors group. There are Black writers authors groups. There's a best-selling author group. Those are some of the groups that I'm a part of. And you learn some things along the way. One thing I think you need to keep in mind is everyone's trying to market their book, so there's a lot of that. So sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming, and I notice other people getting frustrated, but I don't, because I'm like, they're trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do, is bring awareness of my book. So you have to be okay with that. So you do see a lot of that. But again, people share and ask questions, and I do see in these groups, people are really willing to share what they know or share their opinion, and you have to just take from that and feed off of it.
Right. So you found a lot of competition. How does that kind of manifest itself? What are ways that people will compete? Is it, I mean,
and I don't know that it's competition, but I think from my experience, it looks like people want other people to buy their book, because we don't want books. We didn't make books for them to sit in our houses. That's not helping us. So I just see everyone marketing, not so much competing, but just a lot of marketing. So it's not like we're trying to take away from our fellow authors, but it's a lot of like, hey, this is what I got going on. Please support. But they're supposed to do that. I think that's what you have to do it. I tell one of my friends, if these books aren't going to sell themselves. So if you don't have a big company behind you, or you're not with a big publisher with a huge marketing budget, you have to do that work. So they're doing what they should do.
Right. I meant to ask, you were talking about formats before between the ebooks. I meant to ask, have you done an audiobook of this? I mean, it seems so well tailored for the different voices that you have in the book to actually have those voices, or at least different actors representing those voices in certain ways. Are you doing that?
I think that's cool. It's definitely on the list. It's not done yet, but I do think that will be something that will be helpful. And and Jim, I'm sure like many women, we're so busy. The whole world is just so busy. So having an audio book would be a great tool, because you can listen to it in the shower. You can listen to it while you're cleaning. You can listen to it while you're driving. Right. So it's on the horizon. Not done yet, but it's definitely on the list.
No, that's fine. I'm also wondering whether you've had any speaking, because I'm a little bit aware of all the things that can come around, as a result of book publishing. A lot of it has to do with promoting your credential, as it were, in being able to speak on a particular topic from a point of view that has popular appeal, and you can be pulled in for speaking engagements. Has that been any kind of an opportunity yet? Now, I know the pandemic has created challenges, but is there are you anticipating the opportunity to be a speaker?
I think so. It has afforded me an opportunity. I've been in Women of More magazine, which is an online magazine, and been able to write a contributing author called Infertility in Me. And I also was on Ladies of Vantage Point, which is a YouTube kind of TV shows to kind of speak to infertility. So it's opening up. I am starting to get invitations to do different things. I was invited to a speaking engagement in Georgia, and I was also able to speak at a church who live streamed their services. So slowly but surely things are starting to open up. I'm believing for more. And it is every time I am able to speak to it, so many people, again, like I said, when I bring it up, there's always someone who DMs me, texts me, meets me in the hallway and say, thank you so much. I've gone through this and nobody knows, or it's so timely and so meaningful. Because a lot of times people are just quiet and their friends don't have this testimony, so they don't talk to about their friends, or so, uncomfortable that they don't want to talk to their friends and family. So being able to have a voice to put words to your experience has been meaningful to these women.
Right. I've got to assume that there are national organizations that cater directly to those women or families, really, that have struggled with this issue. Have they promoted and supported distribution of the book in any way, or at least gaining?
I'm starting. I've created a power list to reach out to a lot of them, but there are a lot of organizations, like you said, and support groups, and that's something a lot of us women who go through IVF. Because 10 years ago, I didn't know that there was such a large amount of support and organizations and support groups around that. But I've been starting to reach out and share.
Well, and so just a question that just came in. I mean, have you considered linking to a literary agent, either locally or nationally? Is that something that you've considered? I
have, and I do need to put more time in that. I am a mom, a wife, and also a full-time registered nurse. So that kind of I get distracted from that. But literally, I think I just had this conversation with someone the other week that I need to reach out. But I do think that will help give me a larger platform and get it into more homes and, things of that sort. Right. So yeah, that's definitely mine as well.
Certainly the numbers that you indicated, I'll ask you to repeat them again, because I think people need to understand, the prevalence of this situation for families, for individuals, suggests that you've got a large audience, a potential. Tell us again. I want to, just so that people hear, how many families, individuals are affected by infertility.
So the CDC says 1 in 8 families. I've even seen some research articles say it's 1 in 7, and then 1 in 4 pregnancies. That was one of the big shockers for me. Ending miscarriage. A lot of people don't attribute miscarriage to infertility, but that is also indication of infertility issues, and even more. And Black women are largely ignored in medical facilities and have large amounts of reproductive health issues like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, cysts, and endometriosis that goes either ignored or just treated with birth control pills. And those hormonal issues and cysts and fibroids can cause a multitude of infertility issues. And one of the things, a lot of people think this is just a woman-only issue, and they say 1/3 of families suffering with infertility, the woman is the factor. Another 1/3, the male is the factor, and the other 1/3 is both the male and the female. So there are a large amount of males who have infertility issues as well, and we know even that goes a lot unreported and not supported.
I just want to quickly note that Bob McLaughlin, who's, if you don't know him, he's my father-in-law. He's also an author, so he's asking some good questions. I want to point him back, and I want to point others back, because you did list Che as the author of the book, which is an unusual strategy. And you also did tell us, that his father did the
No, a friend of his father. Someone he went to
his friend of his father. Okay.
So did the author of the book, because 80% of this story was created by him.
Right.
So that's why he's the author, because this is his story and he's the inspiration behind it all. So he definitely has earned his author credit. The parts that I added to the story was making sure the story followed sequentially and made sense.
Right.
And that was one of the things my editor friend kind of connected with me and said, well, who? Because initially Che was on the beach by himself. And she said, well, who is this kid on the beach with? Like, and I'm like, oh, his mom needs to be there with him. So that's how I got in the story. I wasn't originally in the story. So those lines kind of connected, and then kind of wrapping the book up towards the end, I engaged with Che like, hey, what happened? Because he mysteriously finds his powers in the book. So his mom starts to question him and engage him. So those things are just me trying to make sure it's a complete story with the beginning and the end, and that it makes sense. But yeah. So Bob, thanks for asking that question. But he's the author because this is his story, and I've just been I've been the momager behind it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're already told us that Che is working on the story that is going to be his first TV production. I'm interested in whether that's going to be published out as a book first, which is not unusual, as a short story, or what are you thinking, Che? Are you gonna pull that whole thing together and let us read what your next story is about?
Maybe.
So he often says that he's not a writer. He just likes to tell the story. So I said I have to commit myself of doing that again, of following our format before, where he just told the story and I wrote it down. So
they have voice recorders now that you can just speak it right into it. If anytime you're you know, one of the things that I know about writing is that there's generally a philosophy of just write, just start writing stuff down. And well, of course, he's probably not had the advantage that most of us had of learning how to type yet. But
I told him a typewriter not too long ago. I'm like, come over here and look at this. This is how we used to do it. He wasn't.
Right. I learned how to type on that kind of a typewriter too. It was a while ago, but you know, and the nice thing is that you can now dictate into a voice recorder of a lot of, in a lot of ways, and not have to write much down, but you capture your thoughts in the moment, right? You can really get it in there, and then and let the machine interpret it for you. That's a really easy way to write, even without writing. So tell Che, are you willing to tell us a little bit about your new story?
Or some of your ideas?
I don't like TV show.
Yeah. What are some of the ideas you shared or wrote down? Or the characters? He's told me about specific characters. No, go ahead. He said you don't want to spoil it.
Oh. Well, just tell us the names of the characters. How about that?
I only remember one of them.
And what do they do? What is it? And what does that person do?
Save the world a lot of times.
Speak up.
Save the world.
Saves the world. Oh, this is a hero tale.
COMET. COMET, I'm pretty sure, yes.
Comet is his name.
Gotcha. And he saves the world. And he has superpowers?
Yes.
Oh, what kind of superpowers?
Lightning, water, fire.
Sounds like a lot. It's a pretty powerful dude. Well, that's great. Well, so we look forward to hearing more about your story. I look forward to seeing it on the big screen someday, or on the big TV screen at least. But keep working on it. That's terrific. And keep nibbling at it, noodling at it. That's what every writer does. It's never fully formed in the first time it comes out of your head, but you start with something and keep building out. Let me share a long comment here. So you can read that. A striking transition from children to almost barren. A very necessary sharing for women and men in struggle for children. This is about how important it is. So you, by the way, and just for his awareness, you do translate this in Spanish, and it's right.
No, so he was asking, will I translate Memoirs of an Almost Barren Woman in Spanish, as we did the jewelry store heist? So I'm going to say no for now, because I don't speak a lick of Spanish. Chase speaks really good at Spanish. He's been in Spanish since pre-K, and now he's in 4th grade, so he speaks really well Spanish, and he translated this himself. So I don't think he's going to want to translate my book. So what we did during the pandemic is very important for me to make sure he does reading and gets screen time breaks. So he would have to do a page a day, where he would translate a page a day. So that's how we translated the original book into Spanish. And then after that, we got his school teacher to kind of do another edit, just to make sure we had all the verbiage and technical pieces together to make sure that it was fluent in the correct language.
Gotcha.
So for right now, Memoirs won't be in Spanish.
And this was young to me, so I didn't have the type of energy to be typing down. all those letters and words. So I did not have any energy. And when my mom says, "Time for you to take a screen break, time to type down those words," I'm okay.
She sounds like a great motivator, but she's got experience, right? She knows how to write a book, so she knows how to tell a story. So you've got a lot of luck in having a mom like your mom to help you, learn how to do this, and it's just going to make your future as a writer and a producer that much stronger. So be very happy. I'm very happy for you to be able to do that. But well, thank you both very much. We really appreciate the opportunity to hear your story, to hear about how you became an author and all the wonderful things. Is there anything else that I missed that you'd like to tell us about?
No, I thank you for having us. A very great conversation. If anyone's interested in getting the book, they can visit theamazingcorner.com. That's our website. It's also available on Amazon. We just love to hear what you think. If you want to reach out to me and share any information or have any questions, we'd be willing to do that. We are available for book readings for schools, camps, daycares. We would love to come visit and do a book reading, rather in person or virtually.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. I wish you all the luck in gaining the visibility on this important issue and sharing your perspectives and the perspectives that you've edited and brought together here for all of us. And congratulations. And to you too, Che. That's wonderful. Good luck to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank
all
you.
right. Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.